6 years ago, on January 7th, 2010, it was the second day that my boat was hurt and Sea Shepherd crew on the Bob Barker tried to salvage it. I just want to make clear that there are two different kind of people on Sea Shepherd. There were legitimate people on the Bob Barker, like the captain, Chuck Swift, and others, which honestly wanted to save the boat. And there was some upper management that looked at that opportunity to make money and publicity.
1 second, Chuck. I think it's important that we get this kind of attention in order to expose Japan's activities down in these waters, and the more exposure of those activities, the better it is for our campaign.
If you go into Paul Watson claim, and he said that just in the first 2 hours after the collision, Sea Shepherd made $170,000. And it's somewhere in some of his writing, and you can probably find it on the web if you search for it. So they started with their operation on Wednesday, which was January 6th, and they were removing a lot of that stuff as we saw in pictures and video of where we were. The one thing that they have removed that they shouldn't have removed was the GPS locator. That GPS locator was installed on the Adigil by Pete Bethune when he originally built Airtrace. The reason was if he was lost anywhere in the ocean, he could be found. He said to me later that he put really large batteries on this that could potentially keep that locator for up to 2 years. While they were removing all the electronics, they have removed the GPS, the batteries, and their locator. Now, there are two reasons for that. One is you don't pay attention to what it is that you're removing, and the other reason is you just don't want it to be found later on. So they were going into a first legitimate tow, and that tow was not that successful, and the boat was not really taking water, but the rope broke. And as Pete said, they went into a second tow. At that point, they were getting calls repeatedly from Paul Watson, who wanted this boat sunk. And he wanted it sunk because $170,000 in 2 hours can probably generate $1 million down the road. So he saw that opportunity of making money for Sea Shepherd and sympathy for the organization. So these calls eventually convinced the people on the Bob Barker to take action. And Pete revealed to me about 6 months later, that was proven to be right, is that at some point they had to give in to Paul Watson demands and make a plan to sink the Adigil. Now, you don't want to be caught sinking it. So what is it that they did? About 30 hours after the boat was hit, and while it was under a tow, which was actually successful, going very slow, about 1.5 to 2 knots, 3 people, as Pete said, went on the Adigil, the boat. And there was Chuck Swift, the captain of the Bob Barker, Luke Van Horn, that was the communication officer, and Pete Bethune himself. Now, the idea was, how do you sink a boat with nobody knowing that you did so, and not having this thing sinking so quickly that you're being caught? So what is it that they did? On January 7th, at night, which was 30 hours after the original incident, Pete Bethune went into the engine compartment of the Adigil. In the engine compartment, it has seacocks. Seacocks are those tubes that suck water from the ocean to cool those two diesel engines. And they have viewing ports that you can see if there's any debris going into it. And these viewing ports look almost like your water meter, and it has a round glass to it with a lot of screws. So the best way of getting water into the engine compartment was to loosen up these screws but not really remove the entire glass, because you don't want so much water going into the boat that you're taking your Zodiac back into the Bob Barker and this thing is already underwater. People will say, hey, what was going on? So the idea was to just flood it slowly. So that's what they did, and Pete came back with the Zodiac under tow and got into his bedroom and went to sleep. So then the crew is waking up in the morning, and what do they see? They see the boat slowly going underwater, or actually within the night already went about 50% lower than what it was before. So if you would watch on Whale Wars, you see, oh, really, what happened? The boat must have taken water under tow. Well, it did not take water under tow. It took water because somebody wanted this boat dismantled or this boat destroyed. Now, while this thing happened, Bonnie Schumacher, which was the second mate on the Bob Barker, went to Chuck Swift, the captain. She told me that, and asked him to put a pinger or a locator on the boat so that boat could be found later. And one of the guys said, I will go there and put it on. Now I don't know why they didn't want anybody going there, but obviously they didn't want anybody to know where the water was, and nobody wanted to know what happened that night while they were opening the seacocks and why the engine compartment is all flooded. They said, no, we're not going to put a pinger on it or a locator, which originally actually it did have. I talked to Pete after that and asked him why wasn't there a pinger on it. He said, listen, we did. I had it, but it was removed. And the reason is Sea Shepherd did not want you to find the boat ever. They did not want you to find the boat because they didn't want you to find a boat with seacocks open. And they were thinking that all is going to go like that, and then they're going to have that PR and the media, and then they're going to make their little lies or the big lies as if they tried to tow the boat and they did everything possible to save this thing. But you know what? Somebody explained to me what actually happened. We're asking ourselves, why is it that some people within Sea Shepherd did not care about destroying that boat? And I asked a friend of mine, actually he was the director of a great movie called Who Killed the Electric Car. Ask him, why is it? He said, let me tell you a story. He said, when I was in high school, my teacher asked us, who has a $5 bill? And one of the kids said, I do. And the kid gave the $5 bill to the teacher. And then the teacher said, I'm going to burn that $5 bill. Who wants to see this thing burn? And all the kids said, yeah, we want to see you burning the $5 bill. Except of the kid who gave the $5 to the teacher. He did not want to see this thing burn. And why was that? Because it was his money. And it was his $5 bill. And that is exactly what it is. It is somewhat typical in non-profit. Somebody is giving you something, and it may have been something that they work really hard for, and you're getting it for free, and you put zero value on this thing, and you're just going to say, okay, I'm going to destroy this thing, and I'm going to move on with my mission, and my mission is greater than any moral thing that I would have to that person who gave me something that he worked really hard for it. And I worked really hard for it. I schlepped video projectors for many, many years, and I had a successful company in order to have a boat like that. And that boat was given to Sea Shepherd to do good, and it was not something that they should have disposed like this recklessly because they didn't have to work for it. So that is what happened 6 years ago, and that is why they ended up in court, and that is why they lost in court. And they didn't really lose in court to me. They also lost in court to Pete Bethune. And they lost in court in Pete Bethune $500,000 because they owed him $500,000. But that is what they do. We owe you the money, screw you, take us to court. That is what Paul Watson said. He said to me, "Take me to court. You're never gonna win." Well, guess what?